If you are looking for a powerful technique to provide compelling and comprehensible input to your students, you have come to the right place. This is Movie Talk. It's all about the story. Bonjour, I am Cécile Lenné, and I'm here because my students and I, we love movie talks. And you can find me at towardproficiency.com. Today, I would like to talk about what movie talk is and share the secret of a successful movie talk. You will also get to see a classroom demo, really important for you to see this powerful technique in action. We'll come back after the demo and we'll debrief together. And finally, we'll talk about what happens after the story. Are you ready? First, what is movie talk? Movie talk is simply comprehensible input through the narration of an interesting movie or video. It is a technique that was created by Dr. Ashley Hastings. Simple, right? Now, what it's not is a way to drill or circle specific language targets. In other words, you're selecting a movie talk because the story is going to be compelling to your students, not because you're trying to fit in specific language targets. And we will talk about that a little more as we go along this presentation. So what is the secret of a successful movie talk? I think I may already have told you. Let's see. Movies selected should be visually appealing with an interesting plot that does not rely too much on dialogue. And that is a quote by Dr. Hastings himself. Simple again, visually appealing and with an interesting plot. That's all you need. So you may select YouTube videos, shorts, commercials, your own videos, or a full-length feature film. Let's jump into a classroom demo. I really want you to have a good feel for what a movie talk looks like in the classroom. And while you're watching me providing compelling and comprehensible input to my students, I want you to think about two questions. First, how am I making the story comprehensible to my students? What techniques am I using? What are you observing? And second, what kinds of questions am I asking my students? And when am I asking these questions? So you're going to be watching a class of 20 eighth graders. This is their second semester in French. So they have a little bit of language, but they're definitely still novice. You can watch as little or as much of the video as you want, but I do recommend that even if French is not the language you teach, that you try to stick with the video for 5 to 7 minutes so that you have time to actually observe the strategies and the techniques in practice and to think about those two questions. I will see you on the other side. Okay. Je vais vous raconter une histoire de goûter. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire goûter? Oui, une histoire de goûter. Okay? Il y a une femme, c'est une vieille femme, et elle est dans une gare. Une gare, c'est un endroit où il y a des trains. Oui, c'est un endroit où tu attends le train. Ça va, une gare? Quelle a dit ça va, une gare? Ok, train station. Ouais. Et la vieille femme a faim. Elle a très faim. Elle veut manger un goûter, un petit goûter. Ouais. C'est bon? Alors, la vieille femme va au distributeur automatique. Un distributeur automatique, c'est où tu peux acheter un goûter. Ça va? Ok. Dans le distributeur automatique, il y a une petite boîte de cookies. Oui, c'est une boîte de cookies. En français, on dit aussi biscuit. Biscuit, cookie, biscuit. La vieille dame voit la boîte de cookies et elle veut acheter la boîte de cookies. Alors, elle met de l'argent dans le distributeur. Oui, elle met de l'argent et elle sélectionne, le paquet ou la boîte. Le paquet ou la boîte. Le paquet, c'est comme la boîte. Ouais. De biscuits. Ouais. Mais, il y a un problème. Le paquet de biscuits est coincé. Le paquet de biscuits ne tombe pas. Il ne tombe pas. Il est coincé. Il est coincé. Ouais. Brooke, si tu étais devant le distributeur, oui, et si tu achetais le paquet de biscuits et le paquet de biscuits était coincé, stock, comment est-ce que tu te sentirais?
Très frustrée.
Très frustrée, oui. Toi aussi, Colette, tu te sentirais frustrée?
Oui.
Super frustrée. Ouais, la vieille dame est frustrée et elle est furieuse. Elle est furieuse. La vieille dame frappe le distributeur avec ses mains. Oui. Si tu étais devant le distributeur, est-ce que tu frapperais aussi? Oui. Megan dit oui. Tu frapperais avec tes mains ou avec ta tête ou avec tes pieds? Avec tes mains. Ouais. Avec ta tête. Je sais pas. C'est pas une bonne idée, non? Ok. La vieille dame frappe le distributeur avec son pied aussi. Ouais. Parce que la boîte est coincée. Stock. La vieille dame court et elle frappe le distributeur avec son corps. Et ça aussi, comme ça. Oui? Megan, est-ce que tu cours aussi comme ça?
Oui, je pense une memory.
Tu as un souvenir, un memory? Tu as un souvenir de courir et de frapper un distributeur avec ton corps?
Oui.
Waouh! Et est-ce que ça a marché ou ça n'a pas marché?
Ça n'a pas marché.
Ça n'a pas marché.
Je suis très triste.
Tu étais très triste. Ok. Pardon? Ça a marché? Did it work?
Oh.
Ça n'a pas marché. Ok. Tout le monde, est-ce que ça va marcher ou est-ce que ça ne va pas marcher? Ça va marcher? Ça ne va pas marcher? Ça va marcher ou ça ne va pas marcher? Ça ne va pas marcher? Ah. Mais oui, ça marche. It's working, ça marche, oui.
She looks like the female version of the dude from Up.
Oui, c'est vrai. Alors, elle ressemble. C'est la grand-mère peut-être. C'est la grand-mère du garçon dans Up. Tu penses?
Oui.
Oui, c'est possible, c'est possible. Mais maintenant, la vieille femme, ça va, prend le paquet de biscuits, oui. Et comment elle se sent maintenant? Super heureuse, extatique, oui. Elle est très contente. Et elle est fière. Fière. Ok. La vieille femme s'assied, oui, et elle ouvre le paquet et elle a très faim. Elle a très faim, oui. Il y a 4 biscuits. 1, 2, 3, 4. Il y a 4 biscuits, oui. C'est beaucoup et c'est pas beaucoup. C'est beaucoup. C'est beaucoup. C'est pas beaucoup. C'est pas beaucoup pour Caroline. Parce que Caroline aime manger, oui.
Elle est fou.
Elle est folle, vraiment. Elle n'est pas folle. Juste, elle est... Ok. Il y a 4 biscuits. Alors, elle mange un biscuit et c'est délicieux. Regardez. Elle ferme les yeux. Ouais. Elle ferme les yeux. Okay. Elle lit le journal. Elle ne lit pas un livre comme Becca, mais elle lit le journal. Oui? Ok. Oh. Elle veut prendre un autre biscuit, mais elle touche une autre main. Il y a une main sur le paquet de biscuits. Un jeune homme prend un biscuit. Comment est-elle? Surprise, très bien, oui.
Dégoûté.
Dégoûtée, oui. Oui, exactement, dégoûtée.
Effrayé.
Et un peu effrayée, oui. Oui, un jeune homme a pris un biscuit.
Why would you do that? Like,
Ah, c'est l'histoire. Tu connais cette histoire?
oui.
Ok.
Je pense.
Tu penses que tu connais? Ok. Ok. Donc, il prend le biscuit et il le mange.
Non.
Non, c'est trop injuste. La vieille dame est horrifiée, oui, horrifiée. Le jeune homme est très impoli. Impoli,
Rude.
ça va? Oui, rude, très bien. C'est très impoli, oui. Parce qu'il a pris le biscuit de la vieille dame.
Je frapperais. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
D'accord. Tu frapperais le jeune homme? Toi? Waouh. Mon biscuit. Ouh. Le jeune homme regarde la vieille femme, ouais, et il écoute de la musique. Le jeune homme prend. Qu'est-ce qu'il prend?
Le
Il
paquet.
prend le paquet. Il prend tout le paquet. Pas juste un biscuit. Il prend tout le paquet. Et il mange. Qu'est-ce qu'il mange?
Un autre biscuit.
Elle ne sait pas. Elle ne sait pas quoi dire. She doesn't know what to say. Elle ne sait pas quoi dire.
I agree.
Oh! Megan, est-ce que tu penses qu'elle va frapper le jeune homme?
Oui.
Est-ce que vous pensez qu'elle va frapper le jeune homme?
Oui.
Oui? Elle est super furieuse. Le jeune homme est très impoli, ouais. Il a pris un autre biscuit. Il sourit. Et il écoute la musique. Ouais.
No.
Il prend un autre biscuit. Ok, tout le monde compte. La vieille femme a mangé un biscuit. Ouais. Le jeune homme a mangé deux biscuits. Donc c'est le dernier biscuit. Oui? Non?
Oui.
C'est le dernier biscuit. Oh. La vieille femme est furieuse. Le jeune homme coupe le biscuit. Ouais, il coupe le biscuit. Et il le partage. Shares. Il le partage avec la vieille femme.
Oh yeah, so kind.
Uh-huh.
Sharing her biscuits with her.
Exactement, exactement. Il donne la moitié du biscuit à la vieille femme. Il est gentil?
No.
Non, il n'est pas gentil. Il est gentil. Tu penses qu'il est gentil?
Oui. Il est confused.
Oh, tu penses?
Oui.
D'accord, c'est possible. C'est possible. Il est embrouillé. Ok, le train, ça c'est le train. Le train de la vieille femme arrive et la vieille femme monte dans le train. Et elle a mangé juste un biscuit et un demi-biscuit. Ouais. Mais elle n'a pas frappé le jeune homme. Elle ne l'a pas frappé. Alors, on va regarder la fin de l'histoire. Oui? Parce que c'est pas la fin de l'histoire. Est-ce que tu as vu cette
Oui.
histoire? Oui?
Une histoire
Similaire?
oui.
Snack Attack. Oui, ça s'appelle Snack Attack. Pardon, je n'ai pas le lien. Pourquoi? Ah, voilà. Ok, on regarde.
It's like the luxury.
I literally thought it was gonna be like.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
10 seconds to talk about it in English. Go, go, go. Trois, deux, un. Merci. Qui a été surprise? Merci Caroline. Brooke aussi. Holden, tu n'as pas été surprise?
Non, parce que dans une autre classe, nous vu une similaire vidéo.
Ah, une vidéo similaire
Oui.
avec un twist comme ça?
Oui.
Oui. C'est le même. Oh.
Dans la train station aussi.
Dans la
Oui.
dans la gare?
Oui.
C'est vrai, c'est une vraie vidéo.
Oh, une vraie vidéo avec une salade. D'accord. C'est une vraie vidéo, c'est pas une animation.
C'est une-
D'accord.
Blanc et
Blanc et noir?
oui.
Blanc, noir et blanc?
Non,
Ok,
non.
noir et blanc? Oui. D'accord. Avec une salade?
Oui.
D'accord. Pas avec des biscuits? D'accord. Alors, tout le monde a pensé que le jeune homme était impoli, oui? Tout le monde a pensé, ah, le jeune homme est impoli. Mais le jeune homme n'était pas impoli. Pourquoi est-ce que le jeune homme n'était pas impoli? Tout le monde pense, tout le monde réfléchit. Pourquoi est-ce que le jeune homme n'était pas impoli? Oui, Becca?
Parce que l'homme achetait le cookie et le vieux femme mange les cookies.
Parce que le jeune homme a acheté des cookies et c'est la vieille femme qui a mangé ses cookies. Oui, tout le monde applaudit Becca 3 fois. Bravo. 3. 1, 2, 3. Très très bien, oui. Qui était impoli dans l'histoire? Qui était impoli dans l'histoire? Personne. Ah, la vieille femme ou personne? Personne.
Parce que-
Pourquoi personne?
Parce que il avaient, no, they were,
Ils étaient?
ils étaient confused,
Oh. Ils étaient embrouillés.
embrouillés.
Ouais. Mais je pense que la vieille femme était un peu impolie. Non? Parce qu'elle a crié et elle a pensé à un jeune homme qui écoute de la musique forte, qui fait des textos sur son téléphone. Oui? C'est un punk. Elle a pensé c'est un punk, oui? Non? Tu ne penses pas? Non? Parce qu'elle a dit
Elle pense le biscuit est
son biscuit. C'est vrai. Elle pensait que le biscuit était son biscuit. Ouais. Elle n'a pas pensé que c'était le biscuit du jeune homme. Ouais.
Mais vieux homme est poli parce que j'ai une assumption about le jeune homme.
Oui. Tu avais une idée préconçue, preconceived.
Oui.
Tu avais une idée préconçue sur le jeune homme, moi aussi. Mais ensuite, l'idée a changé. Ouais? Ça va tout le monde? Oui? Alors, est-ce que vous aimez manger des biscuits comme ça, des biscuits? Des biscuits au chocolat? Tu as mangé des biscuits?
Je pense
Oh, Ah, ok Claire. Tu préfères les biscuits ou tu préfères la brioche? Les cookies ou la brioche?
Ça dépend.
Ça dépend. Et aujourd'hui, tu préfères la brioche, oui? Oui. Quel est ton snack préféré?
Cheez-It.
Cheez-It. Excusez-moi. Tu adores les... Qui pense que les Cheez-It, c'est dégoûtant? Moi aussi, je pense que les Cheez-It, c'est dégoûtant. Ah, comme ça. Qui pense que les Cheez-It, c'est délicieux? Ok.
J'aime la goldfish.
Moi
aussi. Cheez-It ou goldfish. J'adore.
Tu adores les goldfish? D'accord. Quel est ton
C'est
snack
le goûter
préféré?
américain.
C'est le goûter américain, exactement, oui. Quel est ton goûter préféré?
Crackers de
Des crackers avec... Oh! Ok, peanut butter. Butter?
beurre.
Ouais, beurre de cacahuètes. Cacahuètes, c'est un mot très bizarre. Bizarre, ouais. Cacahuètes, un beurre de cacahuètes. Qui aime le beurre de cacahuètes ici? Qui préfère le Nutella?
Non.
Moi. Ah, ok, qui préfère le beurre de cacahuètes? Et qui préfère le Nutella? Ah. Nous ne sommes pas la majorité. Le beurre d'amande, c'est très bon. Est-ce que tout le monde a faim maintenant? Oui? Ok, au revoir, bon appétit. Au revoir et bon week-end. Welcome back. Are you ready for a debrief? I hope you had a chance to find some answers to the two questions that I asked. So let's take a look. So first, how am I making the story comprehensible to my students? There are two ways of narrating a short video or a film. You can play the video and pause it and then narrate, and then play the video some more and pause it again and then narrate, etc., etc. I must confess that this way of doing movie talk does not work for me and my students. My students become very quickly frustrated and impatient as I am constantly interrupting the video to actually narrate the video. So I have been doing movie talk a different way by using screenshots of the video and putting them in a Google Slides so that I can go at my own pace and at the pace of the students and use this almost like picture talk, picture talk, picture talk. So still images is obviously a big component of how you make the story comprehensible when you're doing a movie talk. Pointing and pausing. You probably observe me doing this a lot, either pointing at a specific spot on the slide to draw students' attention or to make sure that they comprehend what I'm talking about, or pointing at a word. I have the text below and I'm pointing at a word to draw their attention on the word or to make sure they understand what I'm narrating. When you point and pause, you often need to scan the room
like this, to make sure that everybody is with you. And teaching to the eyes is a very central technique to comprehensible input and delivering comprehensible input. So always making sure that you're narrating to the entire audience. So you're looking like this the whole time. Face and body, the images are telling the story, but you are the storyteller. So for me, using my face, my hands, gestures, and my whole body when I tell a story is really important. Appropriate pace. Obviously, for novice, you need to go very, very slowly. You probably noticed that actually my pace was a little fast for novice. That is an adjustment to this particular class. We have been doing comprehensible input, receiving and providing comprehensible input for many months, and they were ready for me to deliver a story with that particular pace. So whatever pace you think is appropriate for your students, and always trying to take it as slow as possible. Comprehension checks. Now, during the video, I did just a few comprehension checks, but not as many. And the reason why is because this particular class shows me when they comprehend, as you probably heard. They make comments, they do connection to self, they do faces. So I did not rely as much on comprehension checks with this particular class. Moving to online and doing movie talk online, I am doing a lot more comprehension checks simply because I cannot read my students online. I cannot even see them when I am narrating a story. So doing more frequent comprehension checks is really important. You've noticed that I've used some L1. Obviously, that is necessary when you need to make something comprehensible and nothing else is going to cut it. So you just use English and you move on. Online, I have also found that putting the key vocabulary in the top right corner of my screen really helps the students. And that is because, as you saw in the video, I can use my whiteboard to write if I need to. But when you're teaching online, you can not do that. So let me show you what I mean here. This is an example of movie talk that I have delivered virtually. Let me move myself out of the way here. So as I am preparing for this movie talk, I have my screenshot and I'm writing a text that I think is appropriate for the level of my students. And I am thinking about how I'm going to deliver this. So if you think about the techniques that we just looked at, une petite fille, which is a little girl, I can easily point and pause. And I can do this online too, une petite fille. Est dans sa chambre, is in her bedroom. Sure, I can point at the bedroom, I can circle the bedroom, but I am not sure that students will get that chambre actually means bedroom. They might think she's in her bed for all I know. So I'm not going to take any chances and I put sa chambre, her bedroom, in the corner here. Again, this is an online strategy. I don't do that when I narrate live in front of my students because I can provide this vocabulary on the spot. Avec son chat, with her cat, I can point at the cat, I can make a sound effect, meow, meow, son chat. C'est le matin is morning, and pointing at the window is not going to cut it. So le matin is again something that I have to be specific about and put a translation at the top here. Et la petite fille, again, I can point, se réveille. I can easily go into a gesture. Oh, elle se réveille. Elle se réveille. So that's the modification that I make when I narrate a movie talk online. The second question I asked you is, what kinds of questions am I asking my students? And when am I asking questions? And depending on your level of familiarity with movie talk, you might have found that I didn't ask that many questions. Yes, and that's the point. Focus on the story. You picked an interesting story. Remember, the big secret of a successful movie talk is to choose a story that you know your students are going to love. Or if they're not going to love it, they're going to be intrigued or scared or something. Something is going to intrigue them, to engage them. So focus on the story and the storytelling. Let the story engage your students through your comprehensible storytelling. You do not need a ton of questions to engage your students. The story does that for you. Having said that, when you do ask questions, ask interesting questions. I know that sounds obvious, right? But we are teachers. And remember when I talked about those language targets and we're trying to drill those language targets? Sometimes our questions are influenced by that. We're trying to force the repetition of a specific language target, and we're asking questions that are just there to repeat the target, but they're not really interesting. So if you saw the kinds of questions that I was asking during my movie talk, I basically asked questions that connect the students to the story. The very first question I asked to a student was, I saw her face. She was looking at the slide with the grandma, and the little pack of biscuit was stuck in there, and she made a face. And so I saw that face and I asked her, if you were in that situation and you had a little thing that you're trying to buy and it's stuck, how would you feel? Now, the question is actually, from a language perspective, fairly complex, but if you think about it, it's a yes or no question. Oh, sorry, it's not a yes or no question. It's a one-word answer. All she has to answer is frustrated, right? And she knows how to say frustrated because we talk about our feelings a lot in my class. So that's what I mean by asking interesting questions. They can be complex from a language standpoint. The students can provide a simple answer, but they are very personalized. Another nugget when it comes to asking questions and engaging students into your narration is to respond to their reactions. This class in particular, as you heard, they had a lot of reactions to the story. And when a student has a relevant reaction to the story, I like to stop and listen. And I choose on the spot how I want to respond. I may just acknowledge that I heard the student and move on. I may actually, with my body, my face, show some kind of emotion. So here, there was a student who, this particular scene triggered a memory where she actually ran into the vending machine because something was stuck there, and so she actually used her whole body to get the thing that was stuck. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've actually done that? Like, I was just like, wow. So you can do that and then move on. Sometimes you can also rephrase and even add a follow-up question. I mean, if the students made a reaction, it means they're engaged. So you might want to use it or not, but at least acknowledge the reaction. And so this happened, for example, in this particular movie talk when a few students made the comment that once you see the face of the old lady, she looks like the boy in the movie Up. And she said that in English. She looks like the boy in the movie Up. And I looked and I was like, oh, actually, she's right. Here is an opportunity to rephrase in French. So I told her in French, she looks like the boy in Up. And then I asked, maybe she's the grandma. Maybe she's the grandma of this boy or something like that. So again, just an opportunity to hook your students even more into the story by using their reactions. I did not ask you to observe my classroom management procedures because I am aware that this particular video does not demonstrate all my classroom management procedures. And that is because it's April. So my students are very used to how we communicate in class. But if you go on to workproficiency.com or on my YouTube channel, you will have plenty of opportunities to see my classroom management procedures in action. And I just wanted to make sure that I communicated that, of course, you can't just jump into a movie talk without setting some expectations. So my expectations for a movie talk are to listen while I'm narrating. So no talking while my mouth is moving, basically. And when I taught elementary, I would even put my finger right here to let them know I'm talking. I'm talking. However, relevant reactions are welcome when I pause. So I actually encourage my students to react to the story when I pause. And they figure out when it's the right time to say something and when it's not the right time to say something. And then at the beginning of the year and throughout the year, we rehearse procedures for students' response so that if I ask a question, they know if they have to raise their hand to respond, or if they can just do a free response and blurt it out, or if they need to respond chorally. So typically, if I want my students to raise their hand, if I ask a question and I need them to raise their hand, I raise my hand. So I ask the question and I raise my hand, and my students know, okay, to answer this question, I need to raise my hand. If I'm asking a question and I'm expecting all kinds of answers, I will usually call for it with my fingers. And if I expect a choral response, and you see the shot here, I will open my arms. Sometimes I will count down or count up. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I will do this, and it will tell me all together. So this means all together. These are just mine. You can choose whatever procedure you want. But it's important when you are storytelling and you expect students to provide reactions that they are very clear about how to answer your questions and communicate back and forth. The last piece of advice that I want to leave you with is to know when to stop. Sometimes you think you've picked a great story. There's been many times where I thought I picked a wonderful movie talk, and halfway through it, I can see that my students are not into it. So I stop and we watch the video together, and then we can move on. Something really important, I think, that I do with my movie talks is I prepare the screenshots in my Google Slides all the way until the final twist or the final resolution. A lot of the short videos that I use have a final kind of twist or resolution, and I pause, I stop right before that, and we make a prediction together. And then we watch the whole video together, and it's such a treat. If you have a class with a lot of classroom management issues, it's really a wonderful reward to tell your students, if you listen, if you can sustain your listening to me for whatever you said, 10 minutes, we will then watch the video together. And that becomes a really good class reward. And it really works. I have tried this with classes from all kinds of settings and all kinds of ages, and stopping right before the final twist and then watching the whole video together and finally finding out what the end of this video is really rewarding. Recently, a student said, it's like eating vegetables and then you have dessert at the end. Okay, that works. That's fine. So just know when to stop. So you might wonder, what happens after the story? I've done my movie talk, and now what? And I guess you don't have to do anything after a movie talk. You can just move on. If you see that your students were really into it, you might add a little conversation at the end. In fact, in this video, they were so into it that we did end up having a little conversation at the end of the movie talk itself. But usually, some of my favorite activities to do for novice are a gallery walk. The gallery walk is you post your stills throughout your room. So all around the room, you have those images from the movie talk, and I have labeled them A, B, C, D. And then the students have sentences, and they have to go around and walk, hence gallery walk. And they have to walk and match the sentences to the letter, to the corresponding letter. It's a wonderful break too, because we've been sitting, we've been listening, we watched the video together. I might have taken time to get some feedback. How was my pace? Did you understand everything with eyes closed? I love to get feedback that way. And then we get to get up and walk around the classroom, and we're reading. I think it's a really good flow for novice. Sometimes we also do All the World's a Stage, where I read the story again, and this time everybody stands up and they're acting. That depends on the kind of video that you chose. Obviously, some videos don't lend themselves to doing that, but some videos had a lot of action. So I, for example, recommend you look up the short movie called The Bridge. There is a bear that comes on one side of a tiny bridge, and then there's a moose that comes on the other side of this tiny bridge, and they bump into each other, and now they have to decide who's going to go first. And then there's also a little rabbit and a little, I forget, another little animal. So there are 4 characters, and there's lots of actions, and it's hilarious. And I love doing all the words of stage with that particular video. And finally, reading with sound effects. So for that, I assign a word or a phrase from the story to a couple of students in secret. So if you're online, you can put them in breakout rooms, and then you visit each breakout room and you let them know what phrase they own, and they have to come up with a sound effect for that phrase or word. And then when everybody comes back together, you read the story again, and every time they hear the word or the phrase that they own, they have to make the sound effect. It is hilarious. It's hilarious in person, and it's hilarious online as well. In fact, all 3 you can do online. And if you're not sure how to make that happen, how to do a virtual gallery walk, or how to have kids act online, just get in touch with me and we can talk about it. So reading with sound effect is another way that I like to follow up a movie talk. And again, you kind of have to know which video lends itself to some hilarious sound effects. My favorite activities for intermediates, well, as you can see here, simply reading. I give them the script of the story that I just movie talked, and we read it together. Sometimes I give them a script that has a few differences from the way I narrated, and my students have to identify what the discrepancies are, and that can be fun as well. And now it is your turn. You are ready to do a movie talk. So, step 1, choose a video that you know your students will enjoy. You know your students better than anyone else. What is it that they're into? Also, there are lots and lots of shorts on YouTube that are just designed to engage their audience. Second, prepare your screenshots into a PowerPoint or a Google Slides and prepare your script. Third, make sure that your script is written in a way that is accessible to your students. And really think about how you're going to make each word or phrase or sentence comprehensible. Are you going to point and pause on the image at something? Are you going to write on the board or provide some vocabulary? Are you going to use a gesture? How are you going to make the story come alive and be comprehensible for your students? Make sure you set the expectations if this is the first time that you're doing a movie talk, and enjoy telling the story to your students and enjoy watching the video together. Now, you're not on your own. There are plenty of teachers who've done movie talks, and they have actually prepared a database. So we have a movie talk database with hundreds and hundreds of videos and resources for all languages that you can use and you can pull from. I have also added to your list of resources an observation checklist so that you have a checklist on techniques that you can use to bring your movie talk to life. So techniques to remain comprehensible, and we've seen some of them today, but also techniques to keep things interesting, and then some of my classroom management procedures. So it's all in one place, and you can check to see which ones you're using during your movie talk. See I Can Teach by Alison Litton is a fantastic source of movie talk goodness, so I highly recommend you visit as well. And finally, I would love for you to take a moment to read the note that Dr. Hastings wrote to world language teachers, explaining in very clear and concrete terms what movie talk is and is not about. And if you happen to be a French teacher, we also have movie talk resources en français, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Make sure you check out those resources. And of course, I'm always available to help and answer your questions. You can leave me a comment here on Comprehended, or you can reach out to me via towardproficiency.com. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Au revoir.